All right, let's get right into one of the weirdest, most fascinating intellectual relationships of the 20th century. We're going to try and untangle the story of a major Jewish scholar and his lifelong, almost unbelievable fascination with a brilliant and totally unrepentant Nazi theorist. Seriously, it's a story that'll make you question everything you think you know about ideas and the people who have them.
And boom, here it is, the whole puzzle, right in the words of our scholar Jacob Taubes. He's not just acknowledging Schmitt, he wants to pay respects to the man who literally defined him, a Jew, as the ultimate political enemy. I mean, how do you even begin to wrap your head around that?
So that's the big question we're going to unpack here. Why would Jacob Taubes pour so much of his life's energy into studying a man who, let's be honest, should have been his absolute nemesis? Well, the answer is way more shocking and, frankly, more profound than you might think.
To really feel the weight of this, you first have to understand just how massive the gap between these two men was. So let's start with the man himself, Carl Schmitt.
I mean, just look at this. Schmitt wasn't some abstract thinker who got a few things wrong. No, he was an active player. He was a guy who helped legitimize the Nazi regime, who wrote horrible anti-Semitic legal texts, and who literally built his political theory on the idea of the Jew as the enemy. And this is the guy Jacob Taubes couldn't look away from.
So where does an obsession like this even begin? Well, for that, we have to travel back in time to a university classroom in Zurich. An experience there pretty much set the entire course of Taubes' life.
So picture this. Taubes is just a kid, 19 years old. He's this incredibly smart, curious student, and he gets his hands on this short, electric book by Schmitt, and it just blows his mind. He's so taken by its power that he decides to present on it in his history seminar. And this turns out to be a really, really bad idea. Or maybe the best thing that ever happened to him.
So Taubes gets up there, totally fired up by these dangerous, powerful ideas he's discovered. And the reaction he gets? Nothing. Just this long, awkward, painful silence. And then the professor just shuts him down. He doesn't argue the points. He doesn't debate the ideas. He just says Schmitt is an evil man. And that's it. Discussion over.
And this is just brilliantly ironic, isn't it? By refusing to debate, by just shutting it all down, the professor accidentally proved one of Schmitt's most central arguments. Auctoritas non veritas facit legem. It's authority, not truth, that makes the law. The professor used his power, his authority, to make the truth of the idea irrelevant. For young Taubes, that moment was like a lightning bolt.
So what was this earth-shattering idea that had Taubes so captivated and his professors so terrified? It's a concept called political theology, and it is the key that unlocks this whole impossible relationship.
This right here, this is the sentence that changes everything. Schmitt's big claim is that all of our modern political ideas, things like sovereignty, the state, the law, they aren't really modern at all. They're just old religious ideas that have been stripped of God and put into secular drag.
Let's break that down, because it sounds pretty academic. All Schmitt is saying is that the structure of our thinking is the same. The way we once thought about God's absolute power over the universe, well, that's how we now think about the state's absolute power to make laws. The omnipotent God just becomes the all-powerful sovereign.
And this is his killer example, the one that makes it all click. In theology, what's a miracle? It's when God just decides to suspend the laws of nature, right? Well, in politics, the state of exception, like a state of emergency, is when a leader decides to suspend the normal laws of the land. For Schmitt, the person who has the power to decide on that exception, that's the real sovereign. It's the political version of a divine miracle.
So once Taubes has this powerful new lens for looking at the world, he starts to see things differently. And what he finds is just mind-boggling. He realizes Schmitt isn't some forgotten Nazi theorist. His ideas are everywhere, working behind the scenes in the most unlikely of places.
This became kind of an intellectual obsession for Taubes. He realized that even though nobody wanted to say Schmitt's name out loud after the war, his concepts were so powerful that people were using them anyway, often without even admitting it.
And the reach of these ideas is just staggering. In New York, he sees Schmitt's thinking driving the rise of academic conservatism. Then, and you can't make this stuff up, he's in Jerusalem and discovers that Schmitt's legal theory is a key source for the people drafting the Constitution for the brand new state of Israel. And decades later, the famous philosopher Alexander Kojève tells him that in all of Germany, Schmitt is still the only one worth talking to.
But as wild as all that was, nothing and I mean nothing, could have prepared Taubes for the next connection he uncovered. He found Schmitt's ideas hiding in plain sight at the very heart of the intellectual left.
And this is the bombshell. Walter Benjamin, a German Jewish Marxist, an absolute icon of the left, it turns out his entire theory of sovereignty, laid out in his masterpiece, was built directly on the work of Carl Schmitt. For Taubes, this was like finding a secret map that redrew the entire 20th century.
And if you think that's just an interpretation, nope. Here's the receipt. The Smoking Gun, a letter Taubes dug up from 1930, where Benjamin himself writes to Schmitt, sends him a copy of his book, and flat out admits how much he owes to him. This one letter just shatters all the neat little boxes of left-wing and right-wing thought.
Okay, so what is going on here? How could a Nazi jurist, a Jewish scholar, and a Jewish Marxist thinker all be so deeply connected? Well, the answer isn't in their politics, it's in something much deeper, a shared vision of the world.
Taubes realized that what truly connected him to Schmitt wasn't political agreement, far from it. It was a shared way of experiencing time itself. They both saw history as a high-stakes drama hurtling towards a final, decisive moment. They were both, at their core, apocalyptics.
And you can hear it right from Taubes himself. I am related to him. What a thing to say! He recognized that they were both wrestling with the biggest questions about crisis, power, and the end of an age. They were speaking the same language, even if they were saying completely opposite things.
And this is the final, crucial piece of the puzzle. Schmitt was an apocalyptic of the counter-revolution. He thought from above, from the view of the state, desperate to hold back the chaos. But Taubes and Benjamin, they were apocalyptics of the revolution. They thought from below, from the perspective of the oppressed, who felt that the world was already in a state of chaos and needed a final revolutionary break to bring about justice.
And this is the brilliant intellectual move. It's like mental jujitsu. Benjamin grabs Schmitt's most powerful concept, the state of exception, and flips it. He says, for the people at the bottom, the state of emergency isn't some rare event the president declares. No, it's their everyday life. So the goal isn't to stop it. The goal is to bring about a real state of exception, a genuine revolution that smashes the current unjust system for good.
And that's really where this whole story leaves us, with this massive question. Jacob Taubes spent his life arguing that you can't defeat a dangerous idea by ignoring it. You can't just call its author evil and walk away like his professor did. You have to wrestle with it, understand its power, and maybe even learn to use its own tools against it. So, what do you think? Is it better to engage with a dangerous mind, or is it safer to just look away?